How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Reseller Island. We are here with a special guest today, Kevin, the CommonWealth picker. How you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing well. I forgot. I put it out. I put my little Hawaiian shirt out. I was
There you
gonna
go.
wear it, and as soon as you said Reseller Island, I'm like, doggone, I forgot to put it. It's Quicksilver. That's not, that's like
Quicksilver, that's decent.
SoCal,
I've actually sold in the last couple of weeks. I've sold the Quicksilver Waterman shirts. Do you know that line?
Waterman shirt. I don't think I do.
Yep. So the Waterman shirt is their like Hawaiian shirt. It's a
Okay.
polo and stuff like that. It does really
Growing
well.
up in SoCal, it was Quicksilver in the late '80s, maybe early '90s, but mostly late '80s. All the embroidered stuff they did and all this stuff. And back then, paying like $40 for a shirt, I'm like, what in the world? So some of that vintage stuff, I just love.
Do you know the pronunciation for that RVCA company? You know what I'm talking about?
RVCA. I don't think
Yep.
so.
It's really similar to like Billabong and Quicksilver and stuff, but it's actually pronounced Ruka.
Okay.
But it's spelled RVCA, and that's what.
No. I remember this. I thought it was Stussy. Do you know the Stussy brand? Carrie tells me it's Stussy. I don't know if it's Stussy. There you go. But when I was a kid, we just called it Stussy. Anyway, but man, if you weren't wearing that, you weren't anything in middle school back then in Southern California. And I was poor, but I'm like, everybody, I went to this private school for a couple of years and everybody had all this money in the world. And I'm like, my parents like, I'm not buying you Jordans. Are you kidding me? You're out of your mind. Oh, man.
Yeah, no, I grew up not having a ton of money. And one day I went to PacSun with my own money and bought on discount this Ruka shirt, this RVCA. And then I just remember being in a circle of kids talking after school. I'm like, I really like my RVCA shirt. And they're like, you're an idiot, dude. It's Ruka. I'm like, oh, man.
That's why you knew it. So buying the cool shirt, you just
washed the emotional scar.
You washed out all of the coolness by doing that, and it was a wasted transaction. Speaking of reselling, I've had a few of those over the years.
Yeah, no, good stuff.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, we're both clothing experts, and we make the majority of our money selling clothing, right? So.
I actually do quite a bit, believe it or not. I mean, I guess I'm not great at it. I obviously love the vintage T-shirts, and I do pretty good on those, and just the new graphic tees I sell on live stuff. But shoes I'm bad at, and I started out much like you, actually, the way you resell. I started out going to Goodwills. Yep. And this is before the smartphone. I mean, I've been doing this I keep forgetting. It might be 24 years at this point. I started at 23, so 24 years. And I would go to Goodwill, and I would bring a little notepad and pen, which is still a staple of mine.
Yep.
And I would write down all the model numbers. This is early stuff. This is like 2001. And I write down all the model numbers, and I'd go home, and I'd look them all up. And then I'd go back, and I'd buy the ones that were worth money. And I would do that with even remotes back then, all that stuff, man. That's how I started. And that was the stuff I predominantly picked early on. Not necessarily at yard sales, but that's kind of the Jride mold right there. Vacuum cleaner parts and all that stuff, man. I still do vacuum cleaners. I still do electronics. I just don't seek it out. If it hits me in the face, I'll do it.
No, I noticed you do a lot of VCRs and DVD VCR combo players.
Love VCRs, and I haven't been finding as many, which is a reason to still go out and look because there's fewer and fewer out there, and they just maintain their value. They're just awesome, and they sell so stinking fast. They're crazy. Little Jride sell-through rate special.
Well, I mean remotes specifically. So I actually just got 25 remotes from a bulk lot that just got here yesterday. I had my dad list them last night. And then I'm actually getting a lot of 505 remotes coming in. Should be here tomorrow.
Right. So now we're talking about lots here. So where are you buying these lots from?
So I've actually bought about 45. So I'll show you guys right here.
You're doing retail arbitrage?
So this is just filled with these are all Ray-Ban. These are Kate Spade. Got some Coach under there. So this week I bought about 2,700 eyeglass frames.
Yeah, all knockoffs, so you could do a great YouTube video and make money on YouTube.
Exactly. But no, I bought just under 3,000 eyeglass frames. I bought about 700 pieces of makeup. And then
Jeez.
I've got the remote controls and the mouses, computer mouses coming in probably tomorrow.
I'm
The
so glad you
majority of
brought
that,
this up. This is what I want to talk about.
yeah,
Majority of
no,
that what?
exactly. So the majority of this stuff I actually just bought from eBay.com. So
Really?
every morning I search remote control lot. I actually have these saved, and then digital
Uh-huh.
camera lot, and then makeup lot. And I just am constantly refreshing that and sniping and bidding and
Mm-hmm.
doing all that stuff.
That's very cool. eBay.com. Nobody says that, by the way. Is that your tagline?
eBay.com. It's on this thing called the interwebs. Pretty popular. It came out yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. So and that's part of what I talk about because
Yeah.
you said you watched my video today before we started filming. He said I ripped him off. I just did a total Jride rip off video, which is probably true. But I, we both get these folks that I can't source enough. I can't
Yep.
find enough. It's my area sucks and whatever. I say my area is not that great, and I say it. I couch it a little bit because it's just there's one local Goodwill. I live out in the middle of nowhere, and there's some Goodwills that way, and there's some Goodwills that way. There's no Salvation Army. There's no Deseret. There's nothing. Right? They just opened a different thrift store in Lynchburg, half an hour, 40 minutes away. And it's like, okay, there's something else. And my wife checked it out. She bought some things.
Yeah, is Heather allowed to go there, or is that
Yeah.
is that off limits?
Well, apparently it's not off limits. But she's got a bag. I haven't looked through it yet. But people, obviously, and I agree with you, that you can find stuff just about anywhere. But there is increasingly more and more folks that are just like, they're just singular sourcers. Right? They're just sourcing, and you've got this new method. You've got a few things you've talked to me about.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a singular sourcer and you don't have that drive to go out and do those things, maybe you don't have that ability to converse with people, to make connections. You've talked about giving a card out and doing whatever, and I've done that. I'm the person who loves sourcing the way that I do at garage sales and stuff, and I don't actively seek out those methods. But if my income completely depended on it, I've said this many times in videos, I would be exploring these alternative sourcing opportunities like you're doing. And I've done this before. Actually, on the video today, if you watched it, there was a little Tupperware piece. I was comping out a Snoopy lunchbox or something. I was trying to find a good comp for it and just, put a price on it. I was free actually. And I clicked on one that was super cheap. And I'm like, oh, why this is so cheap? And I clicked on it, and the second picture had inside of it wasn't the contents of the Snoopy lunchbox. It was little kids play Tupperware set. I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're charging $7. You get the Snoopy lunchbox, and the comps were like 15 on it. And the shipping was cheap, $6 or something. And they had this whole set of Tupperware for kids. The person selling it didn't even know what they had. And I bought it, and I sold that for 20, and I sold that for 15. It was just a little retail arbitrage deal.
Yeah.
Just to make a point of it on that video, because there are so many ways, and there are so many people who do what you do, and you set those settings. I know I have one on a particular VHS right now that I've hit on before, and it's a sealed Temple of Doom, and a lot of times people list that one, and they list it for the cheap version for like $5. But in reality, if it's sealed and it has that black back, you could get $100 for it. And I've sniped a couple of those over the years doing that. But I don't like to do that as much. But man, it's becoming increasingly more important to find these alternative ways to source.
Yep.
And a lot of people are using it as an excuse, essentially, to say, hey, I'm getting out of the game, which is fine. Get out of the game if you want to get out of the game. But if you don't want to get out of the game, there's so many opportunities. So I'll let you piggyback up on that, and then I'll talk about what I want to talk about a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's just super important to. So I always preach: get really good at one or two things, and then once you've kind of reached your max potential on that, you got to start branching out. So I believe that people try to do all these things too quickly. They try to do thrift stores and yard sales and retail arbitrage and storage units and online sourcing and all of it. And then they end up making less money overall because they're spread too thin. So a lot of people always ask me, like, should I do storage units? Should I do Amazon pallets? And I always say you should really start in the beginning, buying things piece by piece, and then you can learn what actually sells. You can learn about conditions and things like that. And then bulk buying comes later, and that's how you level up and really expand things. So for the average beginner, I say that you should kind of stay away from bulk buying. Develop your skill set. This, for some people it only takes 2 months, for some people it takes 2 years, for some people it takes 20. But eventually you get to this point where you actually understand sell-through rate, condition, supply, demand, and you can really make a killing with bulk buying.
Yep, no doubt. And you've talked a little, I don't know how much you've expressed it like publicly or whatever, but you know, there's a big entry level to getting those bigger deals and trying to get those deals with the companies. And I don't want, like I said, I don't want to talk about anything that you don't want to talk about. But
yeah.
So what I've developed, and I initially thought, you talked about spreading yourself too thin, right? I love to do traditional sourcing, and my content isn't really driven towards folks that listen to folks like you, maybe, about scaling and growing massive businesses and whatever. It's really for the folks who want to increase their revenue and maybe retire a little early. Maybe they want to, you know, have all that money going towards a vacation and whatever. So I don't really get into some of the details and stuff that we're talking about today. But when it comes down to, hey, should I become a full-time reseller or whatever, my advice to those people would be simply not to do things the way that I like to do things. And so I try to mix that into my content, because most resellers out there are kind of, I don't want to call them hobbyists because they treat it seriously, but they're not looking to make 100,000 net a year. They're just looking to make a few hundred extra bucks and get rid of stuff and have fun and go out and pick. And that's me, really. And I want that to remain me. But at the same time, I want to make as much money in the time that I have reselling. And so I thought about a certain thing for myself. I hate shoes. You know, I hate shoes. And so this started with my shoes bins that are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I sell shoes. I sold a $90 pair yesterday. And I was like, man, I would, because I get people all the time. Every time I sell a pair of shoes, they're like, you know, I say I hate selling shoes, and they're like, I'll buy them all, right? There's this one guy in the Bronx. He's like, I can't get shoes up here. I can't get anything up here. He's like, I live in the Bronx, you know, I'm like, okay. He's like, I'll buy all your shoes. I'm like, man, there's no easy way to do it. You know, when you're busy and you're trying to handle messages, and I get so many emails and Instagrams, you can't really do business on a social media platform very easily if you're constantly trying to do that. And so I was like, you know what? I want to set up a system, since I'm familiar with District and Dibbed It, that I can just sell my stuff off on my own little platform to people, things that I don't like. Like, I went through records the other day, just plowing through these tons and tons of records. And it took forever because I'm not a record guy. I'm like, man, it would be so much easier to put these all in a box and just, here you go, here's a deal. I can make a little profit. The record guy can get it. And then I can focus on the stuff that I love. Or maybe even niche down what I'm doing a little bit. I'll never niche down completely. I don't think you will either. Your niche is making money, I think.
Yeah.
And and so I'm like, you know what? I want to. And so I started talking to people about this. And everybody I talk to is like, I think this is an incredible idea. I think you should do it on a bigger scale. I think you should have your audience and us and buy and sell. And especially storage unit guys. Now, you've done a couple storage units, or one or two? I can't remember. I think you've done a few.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll eventually start making a little bit of more content around it. But I do them from time to time. Every once in a while, I'll just be able to get like a 10 by 40 for $240. And
10 by 40. Holy moly.
Yep.
And I've, you know, that's kind of been expanding, right? You probably remember, you were probably a kid then, but the massive expansion of the storage unit buying, and then the big little, and now it's happening. Yeah, it's happening again, especially when people are pinched for money. You know, the last thing they want to do is pay a storage bill. And so you're starting to see a little bit more, a little bit cheaper prices. And now people are getting back into it. And a couple of folks around here contacted me like, hey, they send messages all the time. Hey, I want to sell all this stuff off. I want to sell all this stuff off. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. I could buy it all, but I don't have the capacity to process and still do it the way I want to do it in sheds in my backyard, right? I don't want facilities and I don't want 5 employees, and it's just not my personality. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try this. And it's overwhelming. I got to be honest with you, because it takes you a week to process this stuff. And then I'm going out to yard sales and whatever. And I'm like, phew. So I was like, you know what? I'll just develop this platform. I'll start using it, and we'll wholesale stuff to resellers, folks that can't find or whatever it is. And I would like to sell stuff off at like maybe 25% of eBay value. And so there's enough margin in it for both parties, both the reseller, both the original reseller and the person who's buying it, to resell it individually to make money. And I think we can solve a problem. I think we talk about business a lot, and really all businesses are solving problems in some way, either minor ones, like what we do as eBay resellers. Like somebody was looking for this vintage wooden water ski for whatever reason to decorate an Airbnb or something, and I solved their problem for them. Actually, Mike Deathpile Picker solved it because he found it, but you get the point. And so I wanted to solve this. I get people all the time, hey, I want to sell everything. I want to sell this giant box of t-shirts. I want to sell this. I want to sell that. And then I get these other people, I can't find enough stuff. If we could find a way to economically make it feasible for both parties to make it work, I thought this would be a great idea. And so I started a marketplace. I guess I haven't even plugged it yet. Shopcommons.net. It's over on District. I've decided to go with 8% fees over there. I talked to those guys and I'm like, hey, for this to make sense, it's got to be cheap. And the beautiful part of it, because these are big lots, and we've got some over there right now. We're just getting started, but they're big, giant lots. And the beauty of it is you don't have to pay the fees on the shipping portion of it like you do on eBay. So this is effectively half the fees, if not better. And we can sell reseller to reseller and then get these folks out and individually parting this out. And it's an experiment, so I'm a little wary of wholesale. But there's also a lot of people that don't have the capital to hit that threshold to make these big purchases that you're talking about. Not the eBay ones and little ones, but if you're talking about really ramping up and expanding your business, some of those, especially on new products, I don't know, it probably better than me, can be pretty high.
Yeah. No, I mean, these eyeglasses that I bought, 2,700 of them, average price was about $2.80 per frame. So $10,000, close to it. So
yeah,
it can be very capital intensive.
What's the margin on it?
So my average price on those are $26 shipped.
Wow.
So
you got a nice margin.
It's an incredible margin, yeah.
I would say you should sell a portion of them off on ShopCommons.net, but then you'd create a bunch of competition on your own items. So maybe that's not the best idea.
No, so I am planning on doing that, and people will just have to be aware that they will be competing with me, and I'm not afraid of competition.
There you go.
No, that's kind of the whole this is a big word. Anticipus of my YouTube channel is I give away all the secrets. And I'm still doing great, and you can still do great too, because the consumer in the United States, especially, is wild. It
is wild.
And saturation is a real thing, and competition is a real thing. But I have just found that I haven't been able to saturate anything for myself yet, because I just focus on fast moving. Yeah,
social media. That and when my show first started off, I would find these little super shooters. They're electric cookie makers, and I would find them all over the place around here for whatever reason, and I would sell these things. And for a while there during the pandemic, where everybody's cooking at home, I mean, I had a seal one that go for like $100 and something. And I was finding them all over, and then boom, all of a sudden they were gone. I mean, they were gone. And I'm like, at the time, there was very few out there. There's very few for sale. And then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I screwed that one up.
When I very first started, it was towards the tail end of the pandemic. And I remember I was selling bread pans for the bread machines. I was selling just the bread pans every time I listed them. And then 6 months later, it was just completely dead. Not because A little bit of it had to do with other people talking about it online, but also it had to do with people just going back to work and not spending 16
Right.
hours a day in their house.
Yep. There's a lot of the pandemic was interesting. I mean, Revereware I was doing. You know what I would do?
Yeah.
Because I would hate selling the bread makers, the big machines and
Yep.
whatever. Although there was a time those would do good. Is the little and at Goodwill at the time there were so many people turn those things and there was a huge fad and they started turning them in. Is the little paddle that would go inside of the bread maker that would just turn it? I'd sell those for like $15 plus shipping all day long. That's dried out a little bit, but
Oh yeah,
there's
that's
always
exactly what I
something
would
out
do.
there.
I would sell the bread. So I would buy the Hitachi, but whatever it is, the Hitachi did the best. And then I would just sell the pan, the handle, and then there was some of them had a safety screw on the bottom for transport, and you could sell the safety screw for $10 plus shipping as well.
Yep. You know what you could say on those in the Jack LaLanne juicer? I used to part that thing out
all the time.
The rubber feet. I would
Yep.
sell the rubber. Nobody had it listed. I'm like, I'm going to take these rubber feet off of here and the screws and put them together. I sold like 3 or 4 of them. I mean, not much money. It was more like a challenge to piece this thing out than anything else. But
yeah,
man, there's some interesting ways to make money for sure. But I just thought, hey, this might be an option for people with that lower threshold. And my buddy Chernock's connection has been. This is maybe the second time this has been talked about. I don't know when this is going to air. Maybe I've talked about it on my channel by this point, but I'm not looking for this massive community. I just want to connect the right people with the right people, and it serves both people's purposes well. And so he's like, you know what I'm going to do? He's like, because he does hats and stuff. And it's like, I'm going to make different size lots, like for different consumers, like that just want to try it out. Because I'm scared of wholesale. I don't trust people.
Yeah.
Maybe that's me. Like I'm buying a mystery box and all that nonsense. I'm just like, that's not for me. Buying a pallet isn't for me even. So I thought, let's do this. Let's do this either live. People can do it live. Sell like a whole giant thing of Levi's jeans, right? And go through every pair live and sell a giant box all at one time. Probably sell it for cheaper than people could get it at Goodwill. Or sell on the static listings but have live videos. And so all the listings at this point, we may change it, but at this point they all have a live video and you can contact that seller and you can even know that seller. Like I said, Chernock's connection is on there. And we're going to vet them and kind of limit the sellers because the point of this is to benefit all parties involved. And if it's not going to do that, then I don't want my name on it. And I think we can do it. And it's going to benefit me either way because I'm going to keep selling on there and getting rid of large quantities of things that I don't want to process so I can process the other things. And I put good shoes. I got a shoe lot just this morning I was working on. And I'm like, I've got these shoes listed for $45 over here, but I suck at shoe selling and I don't like the pictures and the cleaning and whatever. And so I'm just loading those things up. And if I can double my money from what I paid and sell it off in one lot and then preserve my time to build other parts of my reselling business that I really like, that's kind of the goal of it.
Yeah. So, kind of what you were talking about, you want this to be a thing that it's beneficial for the seller and the buyer. So, I was watching so today is Friday, and you released a video this morning, and I took a screenshot of one of the commenters. This is from user QF361.
If it says user something, it's probably a bad comment.
It's usually a lot more brash if they don't have a
they don't want to put a name on it. Yeah.
But yeah, I want us to both react to this first. You give your first reaction, and then I'll hop on. So it says, the problem I see with buying another seller's bulk lots is they will, more times than not, already have looked through and cherry-picked to the top where the buyer receives a bulk of unsellable junk. In a perfect world, your idea would work, especially if the seller has a video of the lot before selling that, but that doesn't take into consideration the item's condition. The blowback will eventually all get to you on your end, and you will need to decide if it's going to be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I think. Well, do you want to react first, or you want me to? I'll react first.
Yeah.
Those are my concerns. Exactly what he expressed are exactly what my concerns are because I know I trust myself, right? I trust myself to look at these things and be realistic about it. And I trust myself to know that, I want to make some money on this stuff. I'm not just going out for charity. But at the same time, if it doesn't work work for that buyer, they're not coming back. Right?
Yeah.
They're just not coming back, and they'll complain and they'll drag my name through the mud and do whatever. I'm very well aware of all of that. That's why I think who is selling and how they are selling on here is extremely important. I've told folks I probably won't do more than 100 sellers, maybe ever, but
Yeah.
I mean, we might expand it. I might just do 50 the rest of this year and take my time with them, people that I know and they try. And I'm going to look at these things, and if it's not, if in my estimation, or the folks I've partnered with here in their estimation, if there's not enough meat on the bone, then they're absolutely right. And
Yep.
I know, like, I'm going to throw Uncle Steve under the bus here. I know how cheap Uncle Steve is, right? This is, I don't know if you watch my content, you know who Uncle Steve is, right?
Yep.
He will extract my, he's trying to figure every angle to make money and whatever, like most resellers are. This isn't the person that I think is ideal for this site necessarily, unless they're completely overwhelmed. The seller, who the seller is important. So let's take a storage unit, right? And a lot of people who buy storage units, you've done it before. You said, I've never done it, but I know I talked to enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you're buying a whole unit, a certain percentage of that unit on average over different units, depending on what's in the unit, is just straight junk. Trash.
Huge
Like
percentage.
needs to go into the trash can. A certain
Over 70%.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So a certain percentage of it, and it depends on how many people you have outlets, right? You might have a flea market guy that you could offload all this stuff for maybe a little bit of money, or maybe it's just come and pick it up and you can have it to get it out of my way so I can focus on this part.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are some, like I've got a buddy here in town. Well, he's a buddy now, who does storage units, and he is buying so much, he's increasingly deciding not to deal with any clothing. So he's not even looking through the clothing, because that takes a lot of time. You dig through one of those bags, and you might find one piece, two pieces, right? You might find 8 pieces. You might miss a whole bag full of good pieces. But he's made the conscious decision in his head, I'm focusing on electronics or meat or whatever it is he's focusing on. And he's literally casting the other stuff out unsorted kind of thing. And so I don't want unsorted stuff on there, don't get me wrong, but it could be an opportunity where you just quickly go through and this is soiled, this is junk, this got dog hair on, whatever. This is a graphic tee, not looking them up, not doing the research, and being able to wholesale this off, or a giant tub of records, and he's not a record guy and he don't want to deal with it. So he just literally go through it, and here's the whole record lot. He's making a little bit of money, it's gone, and he can focus on the other stuff. So I think that person's concern is correct if it's not done correctly.
Yep.
That's my reaction. What's your reaction?
All right. So quick disclaimer here. Kevin is not paying me to talk about this site. He's also not paying me to be on this podcast and promote his stuff. Okay. Also,
I'm not getting paid either, by the way, just for the record. No matter what Dave and Carrie tell you on Trash Can.
So Kevin actually reached out to me to possibly become a partner for this. After a few discussions, this is something that I was interested in doing, but we decided that at this time in my career, that it just wasn't going to be the optimal time to do this. So I'm not affiliated with Commons whatsoever. I will be a seller on that platform because I am very intrigued by that 8% fees. So I'll definitely be able to move stuff. But this is my honest opinion about it. So I kind of tested Kevin. I didn't even tell him about this, but so the site hasn't gone live yet. But there's a few of us sellers on there, and we've all put together a few lots. I put up a lot. So when you first get onto Commons, there's this disclaimer saying, "Hey, listen, all sellers, it needs to be this is the quality and this is the vetting system that we have in place." And all of the lots that will be put that go against these policies will be taken down. So I went ahead and I did 2 lots. I did one that completely matched those principles, and then I did one that kind of fudged a few of them. And I put them up. I let Kevin know that the 2 lots were up there. And on the one that I kind of fudged their stuff, he said, honest opinion, I wouldn't want you to put this lot up there. And so So,
Yeah, well, there you go.
yeah. So,
I wasn't in
if
love
I'm
with
being,
either of your lots, but one of them was good enough because I'm not a card guy and I don't know the value
yeah.
of those cards.
Uh-huh. So
They might be great.
what I preach on my channel a lot is I don't recommend that beginners and even intermediate sellers get into bulk buying and wholesaling and that stuff, because like this commenter said, a lot of times you're getting the bottom 60% of what the seller got. So I because of this little test that I did and the things that I'm seeing on the site right now, I do actually give my stamp of approval for those people that have sold at least a few hundreds on eBay. I would recommend that using Commons as a place to get into wholesaling and bulk buying is something that I would do. I would still recommend that you sell hundreds of, not 40, not 80, not 150. Like you got to get up into 300-400 items sold on eBay. Then I would start looking into, okay, how can I start to get more items in a
Yeah.
quicker way?
And maybe even not even just items in general, but they're going to be divided. I'm looking at some of Chernock's lots. There's a lot of features here that at the beginning I'm going to be really careful about.
Yeah.
But looking at some of these lots, they're very specific. They're all men's sneakers, or they're all snapback hats, or they're all records,
Mm-hmm.
or that's the way I want it, because there are certain sellers out there that are niched down and they do know that category very well. So they're not going to be duped by
Yep.
any nonsense that some seller, hopefully we don't have any of that. And so that's a function of this that I think is beneficial. There's a lot of folks out there who just sell shoes. They literally could look at this video. There's pictures as well. Some of them have a picture as the lead, and then you look at the video. That could literally look at that and they know the value of it immediately. That's
Yep.
the person that we're looking for, right? That's the person that we don't want somebody to go out and buy this lot of shoes because Kevin said Chernock's a great shoe seller and you can make $500 on this $135 shoe lot. I want those folks who know those categories well. I don't know records as bad. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know bands from whatever, and I can yeah, that's worth money. But sometimes when I've done the research before, it's like, how is this not worth money? And how is this worth money? I don't know how to grade things. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But if you're a record seller, and I'm flipping through 100 records or 50 records or whatever, and you see the two in there that make your money back, then you've got an option. And I think there's other folks out there. There's a lady, this is what got me going down this road. There's a lady on Dibdit. I was selling records on Dibdit. Or no, wait a minute. Let me go back a step. There's two different people. One was a record guy. One was an 8-track guy. But there's a lady who's buying comics. And I was selling comics that I know nothing about in packs of 10. And I would show them the 10 and then I'd sell them. And they're like $3 or whatever. I'm like, man, I just spent an hour and whatever selling all these records and made $190. I would have rather, or records, sorry, comics. I would have, and I sold maybe, I don't know, 300 comics, something like that. I'm like, I would have rather just sold the entire box and made half as much money and done it in 5 minutes.
Yep.
And so this lady, because she just kept coming back. I'm like, what do you? So I asked her one day, I'm like, what are you doing with these? She's like, I put them in my antique booth, and some of my up priced $3-4, and the lower end ones I put at $1, and I sell them like crazy. I'm like, really? I'm like, so 300. I say, so she could make $500 off of that box, and I could sell it for 100 in 5 minutes and be done with it, and I paid 30. I'm all in, right? Same thing happened with this 8-track guy. He was buying 8-tracks from different people. We were doing a media day and he just bought all day, whatever. And I'm just like, man, if I come across that lot again for free at a storage unit or whatever that somebody does, I'll just put it on there and let that guy make his money at a cheaper price than buying the one-offs. And the communication part is cool too, because if you're a buyer, you can go on there in the threads. This is why I like District, and just say, hey, there's a pipe guy I know. He's always, are you finding pipes lately? You finding pipes lately? No, I haven't. I mean, occasionally I have it, and that's why he asked me. But man, if I was at an estate sale and I saw a pipe collection or something, yeah, as a picker, I would sit there and I would go through. I'm not going to buy a whole pipe collection if it's junk, right? I would try to find those 2 or 3 that are really good. Maybe I can make my money back on these 12 and these 50 sitting here. What am I going to do with them, right? And so that's the concern of that guy. You pick those 12 or whatever. But in my mind, how long would it take to research 75 of them to find the 10 good ones? Maybe it's better for me just to say, hey, put this pipe lot over here. I can even envision estate selling folks using this site, or mom and pop thrift shops who just get overwhelmed with a donation at the time and don't want to process everything. There's all kinds of possibilities. We could even, you get on there and you request something. I'm looking for junk wax boxes in massive quantity that we know some of them go for $8 and somebody doesn't want to list them, but there's a purpose for that person because maybe they're a car dealer and they go to shows and they sell them off for $1 a pack and they can get $26.
Yep.
I'm not saying this is going to solve everybody's problems out there. I'm trying to solve some people's problems and have them source for their antique booth, for their card shows, for their whatever. There's vintage sellers. You know this. Have you been in any of these vintage, what's it called? The one I went to in Vegas. Not, I can't think of it. Vintage. What is the name of that? The big touring thing with all the vintage clothing goes around the country.
I know what you're talking about too. It's
anyway,
something. Yeah.
But they go everywhere, right? And I did a stop in Charlotte. I went to the one in Vegas and whatever. And I'm looking at the prices in there. I'm like, man, these people are getting $40 for this at this show. These young people are coming in here and buying this. I'm like, I couldn't sell this for $10 on eBay, right?
Yeah.
And so there are some people who can take these bulk vintage t-shirt lots. Like I came across one that was a single stitch blank t-shirt lot, all kinds of blank t-shirts, single stitch vintage with the cool tags and whatever. You can't really sell those, most of them on eBay, but man, do the vintage buyers love to get those, especially the people who put transfers on them and in bulk.
Yep.
And so I think this solves a lot of people's issues. Not everybody's, and it is not for everybody. It's for the folks who need inventory, specific inventory, or bulk inventory to list, or that have way too much to process.
Harry Tornado needs those blank sweatshirts so we can put support friends on it. Right?
There you go. There you go.
No, but yeah. So that. And I don't want this to feel just like a straight up advertisement for people because we're going to get into some other cool topics that we want to talk about. But also that feature that you were talking about. So you have a little thing that says, what are you looking for? I'm excited for once that launches to put in probably a few times a month, maybe even weekly. Hey guys, I'm looking for cameras, remotes, and sunglasses. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, I'm looking for cameras, remotes, and sunglasses over and over and over and over again. Because even though I do have an amazing area to source, Utah is incredible. I don't know where this business is going to take me, but I just in my last live and talking with my wife, a few things have happened recently to us that where I want to take this thing big. I want to get to 10,000 items that have a very strong sell-through rate and sell several dozen items every single day.
And hard to source that. Hard to source that in a traditional way. You can even have an employee. You can.
So if I want to have, I could eventually see my store before 2027 getting to 15,000 items and maintaining an overall store sell-through rate of 60%, which means every 90 days, 60% of my store is gone and it needs to be replaced, which means I'm selling 6,000 items every 90 days.
That's certainly doable when you're talking multi-quantity. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, no doubt.
Well, no. So I will have, so right now in my store, I have, if we go to my active listings, I have 2,312 listings and 2,500 active items. So I have like 6 SKUs that have multiples of 10 and 15 and stuff. But honestly, like a lot of my listings are just one item. So
right.
But yeah, in a traditional sense, I can't get 6,000 fast sell-through rate items from garage sales and thrift stores. It's just not gonna be possible.
And see, I'm never giving that up because, like I said, it's my therapy, and so I don't know that I'll be buying much. I might. I'm a browser, right? If I see a good deal, I'll do it. Like I've bought from Chernok. I've had time periods where I needed some inventory, not very many, but my buddy, like I keep mentioning Chernok because he was the one who got a lot of these first listings up here. I've bought from him before. I bought a Pearl Snap. You like Pearl Snaps? Pearl
Dude,
Snap
you
locks.
should have seen my live on TikTok yesterday. Holy
I was
cow.
actually in there for a few minutes while
Oh,
you
you
were
were? Dude.
begging for people to heart that thing, man.
Dude, it was not, dude, I got up to 800 live viewers, and then I got two people started reporting me, and I got two restrictions, and it went all the way down to 80 for like 10 minutes, and it wouldn't push out my video. It sucked.
And they're just reporting you for no reason, just to
They're
do
reporting
it.
me because I made a joke. You'll love this. I found a West Virginia hat.
No,
And you know me, I like to like make funny jokes and make myself appear dumb because it gets a lot of engagement.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, I've never seen this logo before. Does that stand for the like Walmart's Veterans Club or something like that? And it was clearly a West Virginia University hat. And then people were saying that I was promoting Walmart or something, and that's why my video
Oh
was
my gosh.
restricted. It was funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I envy your I envy your youth for one, and your ability to multitask and to still focus is pretty impressive. I'm sure it doesn't happen easily. I've heard you talk about other stuff on the show before, but that's kind of where I did this initially to ease the load of, because like I said, I hate shoes. There's like 5 categories I just don't like. And so I did this to ease that, because I can't pass up these deals. The first sale I go to a couple weeks ago, I get there and I was the first one there. It was, I don't know, I was early. I'm an early bird, y'all. Yell at me. I mean, I was there almost an hour early. Right? But they were already set up. Right now, I always ask, hey, is it all right if I let you go? Come on. This blue tarp just full of men's sneakers. And the prices were all right. And I don't know sneakers. I don't know men's shoes very well, but I'm not an idiot. And so I start looking at them, and it's like the high end was like $20, and a lot of them are $5, right? And they were good. They had boxes. And I looked at one. I'm like, that looks really good. So I just did a quick little search on it, and it sells for 90, right? And I'm like, okay. I just bought everything. I just bought it. There's and I just don't want to go through that stuff. But I just can't turn away a good deal sometimes if it's not in my lane. I still don't turn it down. And so I thought, okay, I can still buy this stuff. I'm also a content creator, so I look like an idiot passing up all these shoes on a video. I'm like, I don't look like a dummy. So that's where this came from. Okay, I just want to, I knew that one was worth $90. I'm gonna sell that thing. There's tons of shoes in there worth $25 to $50. I don't want to clean them. I don't want to take the time. I don't want to do whatever. But for the shoe person, it's really a good idea. So I wanted to make my life easier. And then so many people are like, wait a minute, we got to set this up. I'm like, okay, we'll set it up. It's not even live when we're doing this. And we're starting to get views and have already made a sale on there. So we'll see. It's not even live. It's just the people that I've talked to, just like, hey, help me with this. Check it out. I don't want to screw this up, So pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. So yeah, I think I think this can be. I like what you're saying, that this is for a demographic of people. And so I think this is definitely a step in expanding a business or solving an issue where you can't get enough of the items that you'd like to sell. Because I talk about this all the time. Your area doesn't matter. You have a smartphone, and this is one of those places that you can use on your smartphone to really start getting items.
Sure. Let me make one more point about it, and then I want to kind of pivot, because I love the other topic you've got today. Something I'd love to talk about. So now I got to remember what my point was. No, this is not a presidential debate right here. Let me see if I can figure this out. I don't remember that. Oh, no, that wasn't it either. Maybe we're gonna have to jump into this topic. I've lost it. You have to cut this out so Dave and Carrie don't get mad at me. On that podcast, I can lose my train of thought because they'll just interrupt me immediately. It's perfect. It's wonderful. Oh, no. Oh yeah, here it is. I got it. Finally.
Here we go.
When creators, and you've heard this criticism, Harry Tornado got this criticism, of selling live. It was resellers bringing reseller audience to live selling platforms and selling one-offs. And so it almost seems like charity for those folks, and they want to get a shout out, they want to get seen and whatever. And I experienced that. I still do from time to time, not as much on Dibdit as I did on Whatnot. But I feel that too. It's like my audience on most of my social media, not all of it, which is why it works. Like Facebook, that's predominantly not resellers. You're on TikTok. There's different audiences, but my Flipper channel is predominantly resellers, right?
Yeah.
And so selling these one-offs and stuff, and we're making money doing it. But my business is eBay, and then I pay Jess and Bubba's girlfriend to do all the live stuff, however long that takes. As long as I'm making some money, I'm okay with it. But I'm like, you know what? If we could bring my audience, a reselling audience, to a platform and make it work for them, it might be much more beneficial. So that was my other point.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. You introduced the topic here. I gotta say something.
Yeah. So me and Kevin, we wanted to just talk about one of the questions that I get asked the most, and Kevin gets asked this a lot as well, is when and how to transition into full-time reselling, what that looks like, how Kevin and I did that, and how other people can do that. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what that looks like financially, what the workload looks like, support from your spouse and your family, what kind of wealth building tools you can use to do that. Because there's a lot that goes into this. And yeah, I'm just interested to see where this takes us. But Kevin, tell us. So you talk about this on your channel a lot, about your school days and about driving the bus and coaching and going to Goodwill and all this good stuff. So
Those the good old days.
Kind of take us through.
Well, I graduated college, and I hated school. I hated it. I wasn't the smart guy. I watched you and Carrie on the podcast, and it was clear that he was the slacker, and you were the perfect child, and whatever. He made that. I'm just kidding. Sort of. So I hated school growing up. I just despised it. I'd tell the story in Southern California. I'd go to school. You were allowed to miss 19 days a semester without getting kicked out or whatever. Now you probably miss more than that. And I would miss 19 days every single. So I hated it that much. I hated it. And then I went to college. I played baseball, so I got to go to college. And I'm like, well, I'm here. I might as well make it worth it. And so I got a degree. And the only thing I liked, which was history. And I'm like, well, you can't make any money in history unless you're teaching it. Because, what am I going to do? Give museum tours? No, thanks. Yeah. And so I got my first teaching job and coaching job, because coaching was baseball was my passion. And I realized there was no money, and there was very, very little chance to make more money. And of course, you learn these things once you're in that situation. Yep. Unless you're an administrator or something. I'm like, gosh, I can't imagine.
That's like a 19-year-old is never going to ask a professor that's been in it for 27 years how much they can make.
Yeah, for sure. And I hated school. There's no way I was getting a master's degree. They're like, oh, get your master's. You can make $2,000 more a year. I'm like, are you kidding me? I would there's $2,000 more a year to get a master's that I got to pay this much money for. I'll just put the money in the bank and make interest on it. By the time I'm done, and I don't got to go to school. I'm like, forget it. So I immediately started looking for that side hustle, because I couldn't pay the bills. You can't raise a family, one income. And, I was like, it just wasn't going to happen. And so I started to resell, and and this is a long time ago. And I realized very quickly, I've told this story before a couple times, so apologize if I've done it, if anybody's listening or I've heard it, but the social studies head of the department gave me the job of cleaning out the social studies department, which hadn't been cleaned out probably since I was alive. It just was piles of stuff. Yeah. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do with it? Like, sort it out, stuff that somebody might want to keep, stuff that nobody wants to keep. I'm like, how do I know what anybody wants to keep? But I'm sitting there looking at this stuff. I'm like, there's no way in the world anybody would use this in their classroom anymore. It's just so outdated and whatever. And so I made these giant piles, and I threw stuff away. And I showed it to them, and a couple people picked a couple things, and I'm like, does anybody want any of this stuff? Like, nope. I'm like, okay. So I went down. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it? They're like, throw it away. I'm like, do you want me to throw all this stuff out? There's a 1897 copy, I don't know what year it was, of the Letters, Papers, and Speeches of Jefferson Davis, right? This whole volume set, The Rise and Fall of the Confederate Government, this box full of Nixon Kennedy cassette tapes debate, because they would show the debate and then they would listen to the debate and they would ask who won and whatever, the whole big thing for that debate, all sealed in the package and whatever. And so I looked one up and I'm like, this thing sells, this is 20 some years ago, sells for like $11.97 plus shipping.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like one out there. I'm like, I'm looking at that box full of them. I'm like, I can make more on this box than I can make in a week here at this school.
And used to be the shipping on that used to be like $2.14 or something.
Dirt cheap. Of course,
Yeah.
it was media too back then. So
Yeah.
I'm like, this is crazy. And then I started looking up some of the books and some of the textbooks, the teacher copies that would get sent in that we didn't adopt that textbook and whatever. And you could sell this thing for like $80. Like, this is nuts. I'm like, well, And I started selling that stuff off. Sold one of those books for like $800. I'm probably going to get a bill from the school for saying this, but it was going to go in the trash, right?
Yeah.
Like, man. So and I loved yard sales when I was a kid. Not necessarily going, but my mom would have them, and it just intrigued me. At the end of the day, she'd have a pile of cash, right? And so I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go to garage sales. And I started doing that. And I'd find NESs and Ataris. We had rooms full of that stuff, and we were selling it because nobody was doing it back then. And so I'm just, and as the years went by, my reselling income kept going up, and the school income, there were years, 2008, 9, like we didn't get a raise for like 3 years. And I was like, well, maybe this is a possibility to do it, to do this full time. And it never really came to fruition, but there were years where I would make more reselling than I would teaching.
Yeah.
It was the coaching and driving. Like I said, I drove the bus around to all the sport. I coached baseball and I drove that bus, but I was obviously coaching. So I would drive the bus around for the other teams, volleyball team, football team, whatever. And I would drop them off at their event, and I would drive that bus to the nearest Goodwill in whatever town we were in. I had a big black trash bag, and I'd find stuff like crazy. I'm making money the whole time I'm doing it because I'm getting paid to drive the bus.
That would be such good content today.
Double dipping, man.
Oh yeah, so you're just driving around to Goodwills in a bus. That'd be sweet.
Yep. And I came back, and mostly jeans back then. I would sell jeans on auction, y'all. I would find jeans for $1.99, $2.99 back then, and I would just put them on auction and charge ridiculous shipping prices back then because they didn't fee you on the shipping. I'd be like $10 shipping. It cost me like $5 to ship it, and put them out there for 99 cents. So if it got bought, I would make money, even at 99 cents. But some of those back then would go for 40, 50, $80. I actually paid for my wife's engagement ring with nothing. Every time I sold a pair of jeans, I took that portion of the money and put it into a bank account for her wedding ring. And so it was only jeans that sold for that. But everything else, I'd take that money. And it just kind of grew. And when I started seeing people doing YouTube videos, I'm like, I've been doing this forever. I can talk like the rest of them. I can gab. I'm a teacher. I don't shut up, as you can see on this show. Yeah, maybe. And then I had to quit the coaching, although I coached my boy for a little while longer. And I just slowly got rid of things and kept ramping it up cautiously. I'm not a risk taker per se. I am sort of like something like this. But I would not, I did not go in debt. I would not go in debt. And my purchasing could only be less than the money that was coming in. And it just slowly grew. And as I got rid of things, it started to balance out. And then YouTube took off too, which gave me the freedom to pick and do however I wanted to source and stuff like that.
So that social study room, were those the first items you ever listed and sold on eBay, or had you already sold a few?
No, the very first item I had ever sold on eBay was that Nixon Kennedy debate tape.
So did you just know oh, I had a cousin that sold something on eBay before, or what? Or did
you know what? It was an ad. It was an eBay ad, which I wish they would do now. Not other than just eBay Motors. Yeah, right.
eBay Motors.
It's just they've dropped the ball, I think, for a long time. And maybe it's not dropping the ball because it wasn't necessary, because there wasn't a huge bit of competition out there, other marketplaces. But you still drop the ball if you don't make I've always had this idea, hey, check eBay first, right? Especially in tough times. I'm like, I would sit in my classroom in the later years when everybody had a cell phone or whatever. And lunchtime, kids would come up. I hated lunch down in the cafeteria. So I'm like, I will have my own little lunchroom and let kids come in or whatever. So I didn't have to go down to that stupid lunchroom. And I'd sit there and I'd watch these girls, especially, and they go on every site in the world and pay for this stuff. And I'm like, how much you paying for that? And I'm like, and I go look up that thing. I'm like, you could have got it $30 cheaper on eBay. But they don't know. And they don't think about it.
In new condition too. Like we're not
Yeah.
even talking used. Like
No.
literally like $30 off in new condition with tags.
I'm just like, we're dropping the ball here for this new generation. Apparently, they don't care about money, but eventually they will when they start paying their own bills. So that was a fault. I think that I still to this day I think it's a fault. The advertising, but at the same time, maybe they jack up our fees if they're spending crazy money on advertising.
Well, a little bit of a side tangent here, but I wish that eBay would do a bit more advertising as well. I'm actually invested in the company. I get their reports and stuff. And I don't,
Disclosure.
yeah, I don't have a huge position, but my position is just big enough to where I actually do have a small voice. They eBay doesn't know who Jake Ryder is, but they see this UPC attached to my investment code, and they're like, oh, okay, so. But yeah, I'm not BlackRock and I'm not Vanguard, so they still don't listen to what I have to say.
Well, I own Bonanza, so I've got every say in the world.
Dude, I've actually had 3 sales on Bonanza in the last 24 hours.
Really? Wow.
Dude, my Bonanza actually goes pretty nuts. I sell about 50 items a month there. Maybe no, it's just under 1 a day, so maybe it's 25 a month.
Wow, I'm gonna check mine out. I haven't had one in 3 weeks, and a lot of times I'll have 4 or 5 a month. It's nothing huge, but they try to kick me off over there. So.
But like I was saying, I wish eBay would do a little bit more advertising. But look at you and me, dude. We're doing it for free, and like hey. you and I, like your Flipper channel and my channel only reaches a certain demographic of audience,
Right.
But your Picker channel, Harry Tornado's channel, like it's vlogging and it's entertainment, and it's getting people that like haven't thought about eBay in years or didn't even know about eBay, and you're putting up a comp. It's like, hey, this sold on eBay for $78, and they're like, what? eBay? That's still a thing?
Well, look at
that free advertising is just pumping for them.
You're totally right, and I got approached by different Mercari and whatever do different stuff, and I'm just like, it's a little bit. I know I can tell the truth regardless of who's giving me money or not. I get that, right, and they know that and whatever, but the way it's perceived is a little bit different. I'm checking Bonanza here. I'm jealous, so I got to make sure I haven't made a sale on here.
I sold a Ninja Creamy cup and a 42-pound subwoofer.
Oh, it's weird stuff. It's weird stuff.
And then a basketball card, a Victor Wembanyama rookie card.
I did make a sale. Huh. Look at that.
Shipping it out 9 days late there.
Very cool. All right.
So I don't even know.
Just yesterday.
I'm really glad that I have PayPal giving me notifications, because that's the only way that I see Bonanza sales. I'll just get like a random $62.38 sent to my bank account, and I'm like, oh, it's probably Bonanza. But yeah, no. So going full time on eBay, it's something that I get talked about a lot, and I have kind of like a blueprint of how to go full time. But the reason why I went full time very quickly, much faster than I recommend other people doing that, and that is because of the most of the credit for me being able to go full time and do what I do on a high level it goes to my wife, because sometimes I do feel. So me and Kevin are similar, but he's a lot closer to the non-risk side, and I'm closer to the risk side. But I was super
because I'm older.
Yeah, no, I was super risky as a single guy. Like I've lost $17,000 in a day once, and like I built companies that I invested money into, and they went under. I always tell people I've done 14 businesses. 9 of them went terribly. 2 of them did all right, and then 3 of them have really hit. But yeah, so I just remember I had a pest control company, and I was doing this, and I immediately started to sell things every single day. And then I was kind of telling my wife, like, I think I kind of want to sell the pest control business and do this full time. And like, of course, I would do it in a way. I got an awesome deal to where I'm still getting royalties from that business to this day. Those are dropping off soon, though. But even if I didn't have that, my wife said, listen, like you're a really good salesman. If we go to zero, I know that you can just go out to Columbus, Ohio, and make $100,000 in 100 days selling pest control. So we're good. And just having my wife just have my back 100% is the reason why I'm able to take risks.
I want to piggyback up on that a little bit because boy, when I quit my job and to do this, and I was
it's a wild thing. It really is.
Very open and honest about it with folks. My family freaked out, right? They just not my immediate family.
Your siblings and parents.
Yeah, all that. They were like, "Are you sure?" I was 9 years away from a pension, whatever. Viewers were like, "What about insurance? What about this? What about all this stuff? What about?" And you know what I told them? Because, and this is very different than you, but it's the same idea behind it. I'm like, do you think I can't walk into that school the next day if I needed a job and say, take me? And they would take me. And they wouldn't even bat. I wouldn't even have to do an interview or any school around here because I was a good teacher. I said, there's zero risk in this except for very, very immediate future. There's nothing. I could get a job in the middle of a school year. And so I knew I could do that. I knew I had skills that at least could get me to survive if it failed. And so having not necessarily a backup plan, but an ability, like my oldest boy, Bubba, is very similar to you. He's very young, so maybe he will branch out into these businesses. But he's a born salesman. I mean, a born. And when you have that ability, I'm not. I'm in some ways I am, but not in the ways that he is, right? And if you have that ability, you got a job anywhere you want. Because I mean, once they might take a chance on it if you have a track record. If you can sell, every company in the world wants good salesmen, and so maybe that will be his ability to kind of climb the ranks somewhere or be an owner, have his own business someday. And I have no doubt he will succeed. He will wildly succeed because of that other skill that they have. I don't have any other skills. I can't build stuff. I'm not an artist. I hate technology. I edit everything on my phone, every single video. So
me too.
And those were skills that I just forced myself to learn because I love talking to a camera every day and because I love to resell. And I'm like, if I can make a life where I can resell and tell my stories all the time, this is like my dream life. Mm-hmm. So I just went with that because I knew there was backup, and my family supported me, of course. They knew I was pretty much done with dealing with some of the stuff we were dealing with, and to have that support from your wife is awesome. And I have no doubt
that is the life of an entrepreneur. Is you're never understood when you take that initial risk, even if it's completely calculated and you have everything in place. It's always, there's this YouTube account that just did it's called Think Media. I'm sure you've watched a video or two at least. And they just did a post the other day where it's like, day one, you're crazy, you're never going to get views. And then it's like, oh, hey, do you know how this works? I see you guys struggle on the podcast all the time. This is fireworks.
It's not doing it. Didn't do it this time. It does it on the podcast for me.
Yeah, no, this is fireworks. This is a thumbs up. You can do a heart. It's not working right now because we're talking about it and AI is listening, but I'm just kidding. But no, it's like 0 subscribers. What are you doing? You're an idiot. 100 subscribers. There's no way you're actually going to make money from this. You should quit. And then it's like 500 subscribers. You're lame. And then it's like 10,000 subscribers. Oh, hey, I always knew you'd do really good. And it's like 100,000 subscribers. Like, dude, I always believed in you. You are really good at what you do. Come on.
Yeah, that reminds me of something, because when I started, and it kind of relates back to your last point, when I started doing this, I'm the kind of person who, maybe you're like this. I think Dave is to a certain degree. Not that I'm like Dave, but I'm very obsessive over stuff in a different way than Dave, because Dave will obsess and then forget about something. Sorry, Dave. You know this is true. Where I obsess, and it's like all these little branch out businesses, they're either reseller related or social media related that I've started. I just can't leave them. I can't leave them to die on the vine, and and it looks like you have the ability to move from one. Okay, I built this, and I'm going to do this with it. Now I'm going to go build this. I don't. I want to. I guess it's an Achilles heel. Maybe it's not. So I want to build something, see it grow, and still foster it, and then I want to build something else and foster it, and then I want to build something else, and then I want to build. It's all the different. I mean, people don't realize they watch you on YouTube or watch you on this, but you're everywhere, and I'm everywhere. I mean, I'm on every social media platform in totally different formats. And I started this from the get-go watching YouTubers. I remember watching shed flips, and I'm like, man, this guy, I'm like, he is selling stuff in his shed in his backyard. He's making money on a video. He's making more sales because the stuff that he's picking and the people see it and whatever. And so my initial thing from the get-go was everything I buy is going to be visible, not just in the picking videos like people were doing, but everything. That's why I built that shed the way I did.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be visible, and I'm going to create. I didn't think at the time that it would be one of the things that I got criticized for, which is you can't sell, you only sell to viewers, because that was the point. Right? I mean, that was the point. And trust me, you're not selling vacuum cleaner parts to viewers, right? I mean, I do get viewer sales. There's no doubt about it.
Mine are much more rare than yours because I sell remote controls.
Yeah, but I foster that on the flip, and there's not that many, and you don't have a traditional flipper channel where you're showing what's sold all the time. You don't do that all the time, but every single video of mine is that, plus whatever topic. And so, but the big key to it, and I realized this with that Enema, which if you don't watch me, it was a plush Enema, and somebody bought it. I bought this thing. I'm smart enough to see a good thing when it hits me in the face.
Yeah.
And I saw this and I put it up there, and this guy's like, hey, and a plush Enema, this thing will gotta get my eBay store moving, right? And I read that and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I literally went down to the place I bought them, and I bought 2,500 of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I knew. And every comment, I would read them and thank them. And when I'm selling merch, Reagan comes in and thanks people, and that drives all that stuff. So people might criticize it as reselling or whatever, but it's what a salesman does, right? It's advertising. It's what we're talking about eBay. If you could do it on your local level here as an individual creator or whatever, why not do it? We all do it. It's what promoted listings are. It's trying to get more eyeballs on your items. I'm just trying to do my promoted on the cheap. I don't want to pay for it.
Listen, you see a big smile on my face because I'm thinking of something that I want to talk about here. So you have helped me and my brand more than you think you have.
Oh, well,
for a lot of reasons that you've done intentionally, and you've been a mentor for me, but also some very weird ones.
No, wow. Do I want to hear them? It's the question.
You do want to hear them. So this is a skill that I want everyone to learn about. It's very hard to develop, but it'll turn a thousandaire into a millionaire, and it'll turn a millionaire into a billionaire. And this is called reverse engineering. Okay, so Kevin is a guy in my space that has had a lot of success and does things in a really smart way. So sometimes, just like he kind of reverse engineered shed flips a little bit, a lot of the things that I do in my business are reverse engineered from Daily Refinement, from CommonWealth Picker, from a lot of different things. Okay, so Kevin makes a good amount of money through his Enema Man, and so I have the relationship with Kevin that I probably could have just called him and said, "Hey man, I want your plush contact. Will you send it to me?" But instead of doing that, I just bought his plush. It had the tag of the company still on it, and then I called them, and then I said, "Yeah, sweet. So I'm sure you guys know." Kevin Brown. Like, oh yeah. Okay, sweet. So I want a deal similar to his. I want you to design this remote control, make it into a plush.
That's really funny, dude. I love
it. That's coming up soon because I'm gonna have this plush remote where you can turn on sales. So you get your store moving with the Enema Man.
Good.
But with me, you're gonna have a remote control that turns on sales during money.
That is hilarious. I love it. I love it.
And also when it comes to content, so Kevin, he gives little shout outs to viewer sales. And so I'm like, oh, sweet. So I started my YouTube channel. And this also took off the same time I had my first really huge viewed video. And I'm sure this just kind of fueled it. I bought something that I didn't want out of Kevin's store, knowing that he would read the note. And I put in here, hey, I'm buying these grape salt and pepper shakers for my grandma. I'm just getting started in the YouTube world. My name is Jride Flips. Do you have any advice for someone just starting out? Not even expecting any advice, just knowing you were going to read that. And I had And it was like buried on like minute 26 of a 32-minute video.
Yeah.
But I had like at least 17 people comment, "Hey, I'm here because I heard your name in the CommonWealth."
There you go.
So yeah, I've
That's
ridden
funny.
I've ridden your coattils to success. I'm happy to be
There
here.
you
But
go.
I've done that with Carrie. I
Yeah,
copied a
yeah,
lot of his cadences on
no
TikTok.
doubt.
I'm actually releasing a video pretty soon that is a direct copy of a daily refinement video from 6 years ago. I'm super
Oh
pumped.
wow. Oh wow. Well, I've been accused of stealing people's ideas and stuff, and to be honest with you, some of that's probably true. I don't think it's intentional most of the time. It's subconscious a lot of times, and because I've made full length videos. I've made well over 50, maybe 2,000 videos that are 20 minutes or longer, right?
Yeah.
And when I went into this, I started off and I made a video, right? The crazy people thinking you're nut. And I made a terrible video, my first one ever on Picker video. Carrie teases it all the time.
I think you took it off.
No, it's on there. It's on there.
Okay.
It's still there. But I filmed it, this way.
Very cool. Yeah.
And I was at 1 a.m. in the morning. I look back and I'm like, man, I've gained a lot of weight because I was skinny as a rail. Because I was working literally, teaching, coaching, selling. It was constant. It was all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I made that video and I told my wife, I'm going to make a video every day for a year. And if it works, at the end of the year, I'm going to evaluate it, which is probably too long. I don't know that you need to do it for 365 days or every day. But I made a video every day, and it ended up being about 500 and some days in a row. And obviously it had taken off by that point. But there was a lot of those little fortunate, little lucky things in there that happened that helped my channel grow. And some of them weren't luck. They were strategic. They were, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I just made the decision that I was going to be. There's a lot of resellers out there and that are pushing out information, and I brought my family into it and my pets and whatever. And I learned that I was Craigslist Hunter, right? I watched Craigslist Hunter forever, and he had animals and he had his coworkers and his employees, and there was characters in this thing. I'm like, you can only watch one guy yapping for so long. And so I wanted to do that and create a little bit more of a family thing.
Yep.
And it was the same thing because I remember when I started it, it was 2 weeks later, we were going on vacation. And my wife's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to film 14 videos this week because I need to have 7 for next week. She's like, what? Like, I told you what I was going to do. And it does take that determination. Where there's a will, there's a way. And there was a necessity, too. Necessity is the mother of invention. And so for some people who get thrust into full-time reselling, it's a bit like that was a little bit of a hairy tornado, right? And you get fired from a job or whatever if you have that backup income or whatever. And so I think the strategies for those people may be a little bit different. But if your goal is to do something, I think one of my biggest tips would be, hey, if you're starting reselling thinking this is going to be full-time, don't pay yourself at all.
Yeah.
Pile that money up while you're learning and you're still working. And then, once you get to the point where you got, if you're making $80,000 a year and you got 40,000 in the bank from reselling, and you can see the strategies and stuff, maybe if you're already in debt, maybe you can take all that money that you're making, save the money that you're putting aside for more sourcing, and that should be high, by the way. Yep. Higher than you'd actually use to source, so it builds and makes some interest. But take that and then pay off all your debts and then do it again. And build up that, because you may be 2 years away from doing this full time. You may be 5 years away. You got that much debt, maybe other than your home, you may be a long way away from it. So the build up to it is far more important if you want to make it last, in my opinion.
5,000%. An hour and 13 minutes into this, you better be watching. Shane, Soda City Flips. You talk about very rarely on your channel how you are using these funds to pay off your credit cards and your debts. Lean into that, man. You need to talk about that more. It's an awesome thing to talk about on social media and content. That, like, I don't know, because a lot of people are in this situation where it's like, I forgot his name, but there's this guy in our community. He's not even really in our community, but he makes videos about eBay where he's like, I lost my job and I started selling stuff on eBay month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. Have you seen that? This guy's getting he's getting like 700,000 views a video. And he's just talking about, it's like, hey, I lost my job and I'm just figuring it out. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I'm selling. And it's like connecting hard with people. And I feel like those are the people that are asking you and I, how do I go full time? And
I love those people, by the way,
yeah,
because those
they're
people
awesome.
that aren't really trying to teach you necessarily, but they are teaching you along the way, and they're
Yeah.
following your journey. Maybe a lot of people, most people, if he's getting that many views, most of those people watching it are watching it for the story, not the other part of it. But it's the people that watch that and want to do it that end up watching me or you or all the gurus out there. And I'm no guru. I have a very different channel, but they end up coming to us, which is cool. Although a lot of other resellers hate that because there's more competition and you can't succeed, but you can succeed. You just got to figure out your model.
It's his name is Analog Money Project.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, he his first video ever was 6 months ago. It got 683,000 views. It says, I lost my job, so I flipped stuff on online month 1. And then 1 month after that, he did month 2, month 3, month 4, and month 5. So his views are going down over time because that first initial video was just like so awesome and exciting. But yeah, he's still getting hundreds of thousands of views every single video. It's pretty sweet. But yeah,
and
anyway.
the people who go in, since it's in that vlog style, they go back and they want to watch the whole thing, which that's a huge benefit to the picker. You mentioned picker channels versus reselling channels and flipping channel, all the different stuff. You have a different audience for each one, and to have that ability to focus on separate channels to do that kind of stuff is really cool. You ever heard of Curiosity Inc?
Yeah.
So they had the same kind of blow up success with a storyline, and then their future videos got less views. But so what? I mean,
yeah, who cares? If you go from 600,000 to 140, you're still doing great.
Right. But my journey was quite the opposite. And most people who do what I do, it's very, very different. And so I think it's in some ways a big benefit to kind of go like this as opposed to go like this. I think it really is, because you get this, money starts coming in. Same thing with reselling. If you start off and it's like, holy moly, all this great stuff and whatever, and then you start to taper off, there's a psychological effect to it as opposed to that growth. And there still is for me. I mean, you have a great week. It's like, wow, I just sold, $5,000 this week. Next week you sell 3, and it's like, but 5 years ago, if you said you just sold $3,000 in a week, you'd be like, sweet. You'd
be so excited, yeah.
So YouTube, same thing.
And that's the thing that a lot of people have a hard time. Listen, there's this quote that will always ring in my head for
I'm writing a quote down right now that I wanted to mention. So go ahead.
Nice, well, good. And a lot of people don't like to hear this because it's from a member of my church, but just don't think that this is from a Mormon. Just think it's from a really smart guy. He said,
well, you shouldn't have told him. Then they wouldn't have thought it.
But he said, if you open the oven too many times, the bread doesn't rise. And we're always like, okay, wow, I did 700 in sales yesterday. I only did 136 today. What's wrong? It's like, nothing's wrong. You just keep opening the oven too many times and you're not letting the bread rise. But if you look back and you said, oh, I did 18,000 last month. You had a few 800 days, you had a few $82 days, but you made 18,000. Why?
Well, that reminds me of something you said with Sony not too long ago. You said something about, and I took this, I put it on a video. I did steal this, of course. So you said, as far as the listing strategy goes, because I listed the 10 things a day before, and I listed $400 worth of stuff a day for a long time. I listed, there's different strategies I've used, but looking and opening that oven door too many times. When you were doing amount of listings, you were opening that door to see how many listings there were, as opposed to setting that time and just plowing through it. And so you get, an hour's worth of work out of an hour as opposed to 45 minutes out of an hour.
Sometimes it's 27 minutes. Like, so it's wild how much time we think we're working and how much time we actually waste.
No doubt. There's a lot of opportunity for folks that think their work, as sounds insulting, but I mean, this is me. So you think you're working hard, but at the end of the day, what did you accomplish? And it's tough to be self-reflective like that. Here's my quote I wrote down here. I don't know why. I just thought of it when you were talking. Greed doesn't run the world. Envy runs the world.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they watch folks on YouTube and some folks, and I watch them because I'm like, dang on, this guy's killing it. Jride, you're one of them. I'm like, man, this guy's killing it out there. Social media and this and then selling and talking about rampant and whatever. So, my goals are a little less lofty in some ways than you. I'm young, I'm obviously older, but I think that is true. And we can really, comparison is the thief of joy. I think that you really got to figure out what you want and then take the methods and things you learn from folks and implement them towards your goals and measure yourself against yourself. Because if you don't, it'll destroy you, especially in the social media business. I've had, you talked about me giving you a shout out unknowingly. Look, there are so many people. I could just mention a whole list of folks that came after me that got a shout out for me, or I'm not saying I'm responsible for their success whatsoever. I'm not. But I remember Froggy Flip's a good example. I remember I sent a message to him and he was so excited to get a message from me. Like, okay, dude, whatever. The dude, and then he does that, right? And he pivoted towards something a little bit different. And that could destroy some people.
Yeah.
Dave's cooking channel success. I'm happy for you, Dave. It's not going to destroy me, Dave. I promise. Because I've got different goals and I'm reaching those goals and I'm happy with that. But no, Dave will say Dave will say just the fact that I mentioned it means that I'm jealous. I'm kidding. So.
No, yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I don't know. And that's the thing about Dave too. Like he gets a bad rap. He's a talented dude. He really is.
He really is. Carrie too. Carrie, you talk about success and looking at somebody who's succeeding, changing your inner circle, changing the people, maybe not even your inner circle, but the people you converse with. If you're in a toxic Facebook group, I complain.
Leave Trash to Cash Facebook group right now.
Actually,
get out
that
of
one's
there.
pretty dang good. Shout out New Jersey Picker. So if you're around that constant, we actually manage, we meaning Chris, New Jersey.
Kevin's gone. Kevin's gone, but he's right back.
Oh, wow.
You back?
I'm back.
Okay.
What'd you do? Delete what I said? I didn't say anything bad, did I?
Yeah, no, we just edited that out. We just said about 25 minutes of jokes about... No, I'm just kidding.
The Trash Cash move. But if you're constantly... That's why I like to have a good little mix on my channel. I do attack the issues, and I'll call out eBay when I think they're making mistakes. But at the same time, it can't just be constantly negative. There's so many things that are awesome about eBay, about this platform, that platform, but there's also some concerns. So surround yourself that aren't constant, with people that aren't constant complainers, because if you're surrounded by those folks, that's going to be you.
Yep. One tip that I have for people that want to go full time. So you guys know I talk about this a lot. I did a lot of sales, did a lot of door knocking, I did a lot of telemarketing, I did a lot of different sales. That was my plan heading into a career. Instead of going to college, I did stuff that would teach me sales and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. Not for everyone, but that's what I did. And there's this culture in sales that I disagree with, but it rung true for me for 5 or 6 years, and it's something that I'm trying to go back and unroot. And that is, your best day needs to be your baseline. And it's unrealistic. And I thought that because I would do summer sales, and convincing 6 people to sign up for pest control is a dang good day. Okay, and you make $500 a sale, so nothing to complain about there. And then one day I got 11, and I'm like, okay, I got to get 11 every single day now, and it's not realistic.
No.
And I think that kind of came into my eBay career with me. I would get like 27 sales in a day. And then I'd be like, oh, sweet. Yeah, I'm averaging like 25. And then I'd go back and I'd look at the number and it's like, oh, I'm averaging 17. So I need to build my business based on my average of 17, not on 25. And say, okay, I got to get 25 sales every single day from now on. It's like, no, you're averaging 17. Work from there. And I feel like a lot of us think that we're averaging 6 sales a day or $400 a day. but we just remember kind of the highlights, or we're on the opposite side of the spectrum where we're more negative and we think we're only getting 2 a day or $87 a day, when really it's higher than that. And I feel like a lot of people, when they go full time, they're like, okay, sweet, I'm averaging 9 sales a day and I'm making this much money, and your numbers are actually off, and you need to actually just go into your seller hub and calibrate what's actually going on.
Yeah, I want to piggyback up on that a little bit. Talking about some new resellers, I really advocate for two things: not just setting up a separate business bank account, but setting up two separate business bank accounts, and maybe even a third that is a little bit different. I advocate for not paying yourself at all at the beginning, but eventually paying yourself. But setting up these percentage tables where, and for the personal side of it too, even when you're getting paid from your own business, to set up systems where as you are growing, it's not a dollar amount going into a sourcing thing I think there should be a baseline dollar amount that goes into a sourcing section of your business, but to also have a percentage amount on top of that. So when you have those big weeks, big months, you're constantly taking those percentages and putting them in different places, and to really segment your business into at least two sections where it's like, okay, this money is going to me, this money is sitting in my operating budget, and every dollar over that operating budget / paying myself is going into maybe one of these two things. And so it's totally different than what you're talking about as far as, the overall income coming in. But man, that is an incentivizer, just like, trying to make your best day your baseline day is an incentivizer, but it is unrealistic. This system isn't really unrealistic to do it because, man, to pay yourself and to see that money at the end of the month that you're now putting into this, that maybe is an interest-bearing account, that is a sourcing account or something, to see that go up, that's an incentivizer as well. And now you're able to go out and make these big. Now you're able to go to shopcommons.net and make a purchase. No, I'm kidding.
There you go.
So I think that's important that people miss. That they get overwhelmed and they start to live off of the money that they're making and the money that they're making from their old job. And now you have a more expensive lifestyle, and quitting that job to do this full time is not even an inch closer.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for an hour and 26 minutes already. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I also get a ton of, we'll talk about this in closing. I get a ton of like technical questions. Okay. And I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not a investment advisor, even though I think most investment advisors are full of crap too. But people ask me, sole proprietorship, LLC, S corporation, when, how, what are we doing? Okay. So what I recommend, and I don't know if Kevin wants to talk about the actual sole proprietorship, S corp side of things, but this is what I did. Okay. So I came into eBay already having a few other LLCs on other businesses. And I just kept eBay as a sole proprietorship up until I made my first 270,000. At that point, I put it as an LLC, and then I waited until I got
What was that number? My dogs are barking.
270K.
Okay.
Once I got to 270K, I made it into an LLC, and I waited about 6 months, and then I incorporated that LLC along with my other 6 or 7 into an S corporation. At the S corp, the reason why I went S corporation was so you can save money on income taxes. So I don't want this to get too boring, but as an S corporation, you pay yourself a reasonable salary, and then everything else you put back into the business. And if you would like to pay yourself more money, then those come in the form of distributions, and those distributions are taxed at a much lower rate than your income tax. Okay, that's the reason why I went to S corporation. S corporation is this magical thing once you get to a certain amount, but most people just kind of want.
And there's cost to creating those things as well, and time and whatever. So you're right. I don't think it's not where you start, but it is where if you really have big goals, it's where you need to end up fairly quickly. There's no doubt about it.
I don't recommend people really ever doing an S corporation. I really don't. It's an awesome advantage once you get there, but the average person, on eBay is going to make like 40 grand, which is great. Awesome income. Once you start making more than that, that's when the S corporation really starts to make sense. But I even recommend people staying. So I can't remember if Tech and Sports ever said when he went from sole proprietorship to an S corporation, but I believe it was even a number even bigger than mine was, over 200%.
I
I don't
would
want to speak
not.
for him, but
I make a good deal of money reselling. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is right now because I haven't looked at it this year, but certainly way, way more than I made as a teacher. Just the reselling side of my business. I'd make, even if it wasn't for the viewer sales, I'd still make far, far more than that. But if it wasn't for the social media and all the other little side businesses that I have connected to it, I would not be an S corp. But I mean, maybe I would because I'd have more time to resell, and I'd explore those options that I've talked about earlier in this thing. But yeah, it's a step that you may need to take. But what you do need to have is a separate bank account regardless. And I am not an accountant either or a financial advisor, but that's a no-brainer to keep these things separate and to pay yourself a salary. Don't just take the profits off of a good month, bad month, and start to incorporate it into your personal life and have a budget in your personal life as well. But that's a separate topic.
Yep. So yeah, if you want to go start an LLC for the protection and for the official business side, I think that's okay. People can do that whenever they want to. But I do just recommend staying as a sole proprietorship. The cool thing about eBay is they usually take on almost all of the liability for all of the sales. There's very, very, very extreme cases where people can come after you instead of eBay, or eBay turns around and goes after you. But usually you're doing hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in revenue at that point anyway. So sole proprietorship for the beginning, and then you can look into S corporation once you're making a ton of money. Again, a lot of people never get to that point, but it's really just it's really a beautiful thing, the S corporation. I really do.
I can see your excitement for it. That's really good. I really want to ask you what your reasonable salary is, but I won't do it. I promise.
So little announcement here, guys. I'm eventually going to be making a finance channel. I don't know if that's going to be in 6 months or 18 months or 5 years, but it's eventually coming because I love talking about stocks and S corporation. I pay payroll fees. I give my employees benefits and healthcare and all that stuff. I match my own contributions to my 401k through my S corp. It's all really complicated, nerdy stuff that I love.
People ask me about insurance. I know it's getting off topic. They ask me about insurance and they're shocked. I don't know if it was just because it's Virginia or what, but my school paid my insurance, right? I paid my family's insurance out of my salary. And I'm like, I pay less now with me included in this. And because of the things you're talking about, the actual amount paid and whatever through that S corp than I would otherwise.
Those are my favorite comments, especially on Facebook and TikTok. What about gas? What about insurance? Bro, I promise you my insurance is better than yours and it's cheaper than yours.
There's no doubt. There's so many little things. It's how I made, and obviously I'm making way more money now than I used to, but I used to make nothing, man. My highest money I ever made as a teacher / coach was $42,000 a year. And I somehow, with that being the single income along with reselling, never ever, I don't even own a credit card. I have a business credit card that I use, but I never owned a personal credit card. And I think I did for like 2 years when I was 19. I Poncho's mad in there. So it's possible. It takes a lot of discipline. I've never owned a new automobile in my entire life, ever. Yeah. I don't know that I ever will. I don't think I've owned an automobile that had less than 100,000 miles on it when I bought it, ever. That was that good little tip you said, invest money in a 1992 truck or something and go around. So I can't remember what you said, but I think it's there's ways to do it. There really is. It just takes discipline and listening to the right folks.
Yeah. Well, guys, all right. I just want you guys to know that you guys can make a ton of money on eBay and reselling. You guys really can. Me and Kevin have both done that, and we both have different paths. And it doesn't matter where on the path you guys are, whether you're making $26,000 a year as a history teacher in the 2000s, or whatever.
Started at 28.5.
28.5.
My first, 28.5.
28.5. But yeah, guys, I don't know. Reselling full time is definitely something that's very doable. It's something that you can get to. My only advice is get there slower than you want to. Build your processes. I would second Kevin. Don't go into debt for this business. Maybe $1,000, maybe to get things rolling. But I would not do. I probably would get started with $300 or less, to be honest. But
I wouldn't go into
else?
debt for anything to start it.
Yeah.
Unless you want to use my affiliate link for a thermal printer.
There you go. Or no, Carrie just did one on TikTok.
I know he did. I know.
Jaden. And I actually saw like 6 influencers did that last night. So they definitely did a huge. I'm offended they didn't invite me to their campaign, but whatever.
I got an invite, but I don't know. I feel
that's
one thing that I've always done, Rolo, and it's like it's because I used it. I bought one and I just loved it, so I did it. But it's like there's got to be options out there there are cheaper options that are plenty good enough. So I don't, if you want the Cadillac version, go ahead and use my link. But if you're starting out, shoot, I wouldn't even do that. I used to cut the paper out and put the tape. That's where you need to start, and then move up from there.
I just did the QR code. But yeah, Kevin, anything else?
That didn't exist.
Anything else you want to say?
No, just a big thank you for having me on. I hope it was better than Carrie's episode. I know he's a much more entertaining and funny guy than I am, but we appreciate you. I hope to see you soon.
Hopefully one day we'll have Dave on, and then we can compare all three.
I don't think that it's going to happen. Matter of fact, I don't do these things, but I decided I went on RIN, Reseller Information Network, and I decided, hey, you know what, somebody's going to ask me, so I decided I was going to do a little tour and promote shopcommons.net for the folks that might need it. And I was like, Jride stole my audience. I'll go talk to him over there.
Let's do it.
All right, brother. Nice talking to you.
We appreciate you coming out. Thanks, everybody, for coming to the island. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.